From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Thank you, Mick. Well, it's a beautiful afternoon in Salford. Well, it's turned out that way anyway. Monday, July 6th, first show of the brand new week. Hope you're in good form today. Thanks for tuning to the Richie Allen Radio Show. Dean Henderson joins us live on the programme this afternoon. It's been a long time since he was on. I can't wait for that.
It's the BBG, not the BBC. You're listening to the Richie Allen Radio Show, live from Salford in Greater Manchester.
It's the Richie Allen Show, broadcasting live on richieallen.co.uk and multiple platforms around the world. And now, here's your host, Richie Allen.
Yes, Dean is a terrific geopolitical analyst and author, and he will have a lot to say about who and what is really behind the totalitarian agenda that seems to have, well, gained speed this year with the COVID restrictions and all of that. So Dean joins me. Lots to get through with him. He's the only guest on the programme today. Monday, July 6th, as I said, and as usual, if there's something you'd like to tell me, you can do so through the Twitter thing. So I look forward to that. Yes. Couple of things. Got some bad news to bring you. It's not unsurprising. Hang on. It's not surprising. Yes, that might be the way to say it. It's not surprising. But the businessman Simon Dolan, whom you've heard on this programme a few times in recent weeks, has lost his bid to challenge the lockdown. He was taking the government to court and basically challenging the legality of the lockdown. And it was announced this afternoon that he has been denied leave to take the government on in the High Court on whether the lockdown was legal or not. Not surprising, but a bit disappointing for him and for his legions of supporters who backed him financially. He's a good guy, Simon Dolan. I've enjoyed having him on the programme, and he's sincere and he's genuine. But it's not good news. He's tweeted today, very disappointed to let you know that the judge refused permission to challenge the lockdown. What this means is that the government has the right to impose lockdown whenever they choose. The courts believe that lockdown was entirely correct and proportionate. And the full draft of the judge's decision will be on Simon Dolan's website a bit later on. So it's not good news. No point in getting Simon on today to say that he's disappointed. We'll give him a few days and we'll get him on. There was mention of possibly appealing it, right? But I would imagine probably the best thing to do there is to think long and hard about that. I'll tell you what's really pissed me off more than anything is, apart from one or two mentions in the press here, he's had very little attention on him and on his case. Now, he's made the Sunday Times Rich List. He's very well known, very successful. He's been a successful race car driver. And the media basically ignored his decision to take the government on, and they gave him no support, the media. I'm not saying they should support him, but they gave him hardly any coverage. Contrast that with how the media couldn't do enough for Gina Miller when Miller challenged the legality of the UK government taking the country out of the European Union. Yeah. The legality of Article 50. The media couldn't do enough for Gina Miller. She was on morning, noon and night, basically. And Simon Dolan, he certainly didn't get any help or any favours from the UK media. Here's the story that's interesting me. I noticed over the weekend quite a lot of tweets about this, and Jean Ann mentioned it to me this morning. I'm going to read you a little bit from the Independent, the Irish Independent. The Irish Independent. Today, new Children's Minister Roderick O'Gorman has hit out a toxic and homophobic online attacks against him, but said he would not have posed for a picture with a leading LGBT activist had he known about their previously expressed views on consent. O'Gorman was speaking to The Independent following days of attacks on social media over a picture of him with LGBT rights campaigner Peter Tatchell at the Dublin Pride March 2 years ago. Peter Tatchell wrote in 1997 that some friends made a conscious choice to have sex with an adult when they were under 13. While it may be impossible to condone paedophilia, it is time society acknowledged the truth that not all sex involving children is unwanted, abusive and harmful, he wrote in a letter to The Guardian 23 years ago, back in 1997. Tatchell has since said that his letter was edited, and it's clarified in recent days on Twitter that he condemns and opposes adults having sex with children. O'Gorman was forced to contact his parents to explain to them that he would have to respond to the online attacks, said the Pride March was the only time he ever met with Tatchell. I think if I'd known what he said at the time, I don't think I would have posed for the picture. The new Minister for Children, Disability, Equality and Integration told The Independent today. So speaking after days of online attacks, the Green Party Cabinet Minister said, I feel there's been a kind of a pile-on from some of the fairly right-wing groups on social media, using a combination of misinformation and people's legitimate concerns about issues, particularly around children, and kind of tying that together in fairly toxic attacks against me. Most of it is centred around a picture of me with Tatchell, he went on to say. It's the sole time I have met him. I don't know him other than that one meeting. I've seen some stuff that he put out in the 90s, which I would disagree with strongly, and I think he himself has clarified what he meant over the last few days. Now, this is interesting. Those of you who remember The People's Voice, which was a television, very short-lived TV thing, set up originally by David Icke, which I was involved in, presented a programme there. The very first broadcast we did then, I interviewed Peter Tatchell on that and went after him pretty heavily on the letter that he wrote to The Guardian in 1997, where he talked about some of his friends when they were 9 and 10 having consensual relationships with adults, and I went after Peter Tatchell. I knew nothing about it, but when I announced I was going to interview him about free speech and stuff, and the like, one of my producers said to me, oh, you should go after him, seeing as we're going to be talking about child abuse quite a bit on The People's Voice. And what he said to me at the time was, and that interview, strangely enough, is not available on YouTube anymore. It used to be available on YouTube. What he said to me at the time was that he was stitched up, that The Guardian omitted the part of his letter which said that he absolutely condemned adults having sex with children. The Guardian later on said, yes, it was edited, and they did leave that part out. But I also took him on at the time on his campaign to have the age of consent lowered to 14. His reasoning for that was that a couple of hundred times a year, he said, Tatchell, people are prosecuted for having sex, 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds. And I said to him at the time, robustly said to him at the time, very, very few people are prosecuted for having sex when they're 14 with other 14 or 15-year-olds. And there's really no need to lower the age of consent to 14 to prevent that. And if you do lower the age of consent to 14, you're going to have dirty old men and dirty old women trying to get a hold of 14-year-olds. And that was that. I'm going to try and dig out that interview if I can. Somebody must have it, because it was a very robust exchange. And he stood by at the time that he didn't and doesn't condone sex with children. And the only reason he was motivated to campaign to lower the age of consent to 14 was by this desire to stop young people being criminalised. And every time I've interviewed Peter Tatchell since, the last time he was on this programme was about 1.5 years ago, when I was taking on this kind of fascistic trans agenda, and I wanted to argue with him about it. Every time I bring him on, or did bring him on, somebody would bring up this letter from 1997. I let people make their own minds up. I have no idea. When I say I have no idea, I suppose how could I have any idea of what Peter Tatchell's real intentions are, or what his real motivations are? You ask people hard questions, they give you answers, and then you move on. It's up to the listening audience to determine whether or not they believe he's telling the truth. But one thing that is untrue about Tatchell is this notion that he had something to do with the paedophile information exchange. He had nothing to do with that group of people. These were the heavily funded group of people who wanted to lower the age of consent to 4 back in the 1970s. And they had various cabinet offices supporting them and some very well-known people supporting them. It was all very disgusting and all of that. So as for this Roderick O'Gorman guy, I know nothing about him. apart from he's a Green Party TD in Ireland, apart from the fact that he's gay, and a lot of people don't like the fact that he's a children's minister, and they are tying him with Thatchell because he posed for a picture with Thatchell back in 2018. I have no idea. So there you are. I might invite Peter Thatchell on the programme again in the very near future. And if I do, and when I do, I'll give him a heads up and we'll get into that 1997 letter that he wrote to The Guardian again. But I've done that with him in the past and I've challenged him robustly, and that was back in 2013 when I challenged him, and he said I was stitched up, and I definitely do not condone adults having sex with children. Whether you believe him or not is up to you. Right, 13 and a half minutes past the hour. Right. The British sprinter Bianca Williams, this is big news today, it's everywhere, was stopped by the police in London along with her partner Ricardo dos Santos. They're athletes and successful athletes as well. She might hold the British record in her event. She's a sprinter. I know he's a sprinter as well. He's Portuguese. They were stopped by the police. The police contend that they were driving erratically. They say they weren't. Video footage emerged of the police being pretty heavy-handed with them and taking them out of their car. They said it's racism. They said it's evidence that Britain is racist. And they've even called on the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Cressida Dick, to resign. Here's an interview, or part of an interview, they gave with Sky News earlier on. Ricardo dos Santos, but first of all, Bianca Williams. Have a listen to this.
I haven't been able to watch the video back properly because it breaks my heart hearing like my voice and how upset I was, and I'm still upset. I'm still heartbroken by the fact that they'd removed me from my 3-month-old baby who has no idea of what's going on.
Not innocent until proven guilty. They see us as guilty until proven innocent.
And the way they acted as if we were guilty.
You know, FBI top 10.
Yeah.
The way they came out the car was as if we were FBI top 10.
When are they ever going to openly say that we stopped them because they were black? They're not going to say that, because to them, the UK is not racist. But the UK is very racist. And it's heartbreaking to know that if it's not us, it's going to be somebody else. You know, it's going to be it's a weekly thing. It's not, you know, once a month. It's a weekly thing that it happens, that a black man is stopped in a car because he looks suspicious or they can smell cannabis. That's outrageous. It's disgusting.
It's the first time, you know, we can move on from here. But it's not the second, not the third, not the fourth, not the fifth. It's numerous occasions. You know, and it's with both of my cars. I get stopped for what reason? Because I look like someone they're after, or I look like I do drugs, or I look like I can't afford a decent car.
Yeah, the Met Police says the vehicle was on the wrong side of the road and the driver sped off when asked to stop. However, they gave the couple their own incident report, and in their own incident report there was no mention of them driving on the wrong side of the road. It doesn't look good at all. And while I'm, you know, the first one to say I don't believe that we live in a racist society, I don't believe that the UK is inherently racist, I'm also not stupid. Things do happen, and they do stink, and this stinks. I don't know if you saw the video footage of it. It's doing the rounds of the media. Doesn't look good at all. And I've had black people say to me before, black people whom have done well for themselves and have bought a nice car, you know, sporty type thing, have said to me that they've been stopped a lot in a way that they wouldn't feel that a white bloke would be stopped driving a similar car. Anyway, doing the rounds of the media today. Hi to Alan, who says, let me bring it up. The age of consent is best where it is. Did the Japanese have it at 14? Well said, Richie. No horny teenagers get nicked for having sex with each other. That's ridiculous. Well, I made that point to Thatchell back in 2013 when I interviewed him. I said to him at the time, nobody will believe you that you're motivated by a desire to protect 14-year-olds from being prosecuted for having sex. People will assume that you want to lower the age of consent because you want to have sex with 14-year-olds. But he was well able for those questions, Thatchell. He robustly said, no, that's not the case. Like I said, you do these interviews at the time, you ask the questions and you let the listeners make their own mind up. That's what I've always done. And he's been back probably 4 or 5 times with me since, usually talking about trans issues. I had him on talking about the drag queen story time bollocks and all of that, and had robust arguments about those issues. So I don't know, really. I'd like to think, because Peter Tatchell has done some very good things for people, I'd like to think that Peter Tatchell's motivations, I'd like to think they're pure. I'd like to believe that. But the truth is, I don't know. But it's an interesting one, the O'Gorman thing. O'Gorman is saying in Ireland, look, there are a lot of conservative Christians involved. They don't like me because I'm gay, and they don't believe that gay people should have anything to do with children. That's what he's saying. I don't know. I'd invite O'Gorman on, but he's never going to come on this programme. People in Scotland can go to beer gardens and pavement coffee shops. But that's about the size of it. They can't go indoors. Right? At the moment. They won't be able to go indoors for another couple of weeks, apparently. 15th of July. So another 9 days. Yeah, 9 days. So for the moment, beer gardens and al fresco outside. So Nicola Sturgeon. It's dreadful. Every single day, Sky News, the BBC, covers her daily briefing. It's really bad. But it's worth listening to. It was worth listening to today, because here's Sturgeon running through the guidelines as they ease rules around drinking and eating out in Scotland. She runs through the guidelines.
I just want to run through some of the very basic guidelines which we all need to follow if we are going to an outdoor bar, cafe or restaurant. For a start, check in advance with the place you intend going to, because they might have a booking system in place to limit the number of people turning up. So it's best to find out beforehand rather than have a wasted trip. When you are out, you must cooperate and comply with what has been asked of you. That includes providing contact details to the venue as part of the Test and Protect system. If you're not willing to do that, you really shouldn't bother going at all, because as we've seen in Dumfries and Galloway, that system is vital to help us control outbreaks when they occur. You shouldn't meet with people from more than 2 households other than your own at this stage, and you should limit any group to no more than 8. In fact, some venues might limit gatherings to 1 single household. You should still be physically distancing from anyone out with your own household and still be maintaining rigorous hygiene measures. There should be hand sanitiser provided in places that you're going to, so use it or take your own with you. Businesses should be cleaning any communal areas anyway, but hand hygiene is good practice and it reduces the risk of transmission. And if you see a crowd gathering, particularly at a bottleneck point, avoid it. These are really risky situations, so don't take that risk. In short, if you're out somewhere and there are no clear safety measures in place, then you should really consider leaving or not going in the first place. Because if, as you go to a bar or a restaurant outside right now, if it feels entirely normal, exactly like it was before this pandemic, then something is wrong.
And that really grabbed my attention this afternoon, that when she said that.
Clear safety measures in place, then you should really consider leaving or not going in the first place. Because if, as you go to a bar or a restaurant outside right now, if it feels entirely normal, exactly like it was before this pandemic, then something is wrong.
Something is wrong. If you're out and about at a bar outside, and if it feels normal like the way it used to, it's wrong, said Sturgeon. And they want to introduce temperature tests on the doors of pubs in Scotland when they reopen on July 15th. This is astonishing stuff, this. And it's all the more astonishing because the NHS data, its own data on the virus and the effect the virus has had on the health of the population, the death numbers and the infection numbers. Last week's data, so the data up until July 2nd, was published as it is every week. And a number of clever people went through the data. And I know Simon Dolan has been retweeting it, the businessman I mentioned earlier on. And basically, it's disgusting. It shows that only 1,366 people have died of COVID. 1,366 have died of COVID where there were absolutely no pre-existing conditions. 1,366. Everybody else, the remaining 26,500, were people who had pre-existing conditions that would have left them vulnerable to a virus of any description. And the figures demonstrate very clearly that nearly 24,500 of 27,427 are people over 60, with half of them being over 80. Children don't get it. Teenagers don't get it. 20-somethings, 30-somethings, 40-somethings don't get it, or if they do get it, they're asymptomatic. This virus is not deadly. This virus isn't serious. This virus isn't really nasty at all. Everybody who's been saying that, whether it be Sunetra Gupta, whether it be Hennigan, whether it be Vernon Coleman, the statistics are bearing out, are showing them to be absolutely bang on. This is not a nasty virus. It's shocking. Using their own data, and I've retweeted the link to the NHS, to the website today. You can do the mathematics yourself. You can look at the tables yourself. 1,366 people allegedly died of COVID since the beginning with no pre-existing conditions. It's astonishing. And again today, there are a number of people from various universities and various hospitals saying that no return to the theatres or to live music venues till next year. We're not looking like we're going to have a vaccine for a little bit longer. We thought we might have one this year, as they were saying today, but it might be a bit longer. Therefore, we're going to have to put up with some of these measures, well, for the foreseeable future, indefinitely. It's a tyranny. It's a tyranny. Kay Burley, after 2 weeks off Sky News, and her breakfast programme was on this morning, not much interesting really, apart from she interviewed a married couple who got married at the weekend. And I thought, hello, they got married in the new normal. So they explained to Kay what it was like. Kay introduces the segment. This is interesting.
Happier news. When Sarah and Richard Cunningham began planning their wedding more than 2 years ago, one thing they didn't think would be on their shopping list was hand sanitizer. But last Saturday, after slashing their guest list to just 25 and rearranging their reception in the local pub, they were among the first couples to get hitched over the new coronavirus COVID-19 guidelines. Sarah and Richard are with us now. Hello to you both.
Hello. Kay.
Hi. Tell me, Sarah, how did it go?
It was fabulous, absolutely brilliant. They had a lovely vintage car that my friends drove for me, their vintage car. I had beautiful flowers. I had the lovely cake. I had all my close friends and family. I say close, not all the friends and family we'd have liked. And
not all the friends and family we would have liked.
And we had lovely songs. We weren't allowed to sing, but we had great songs. And then we danced out the church to Happy Days, as in I married Richie Cunningham. So it was fabulous. It really, really was great.
This is tyranny. Did you hear that bit in the middle? We had lovely songs, but we weren't allowed to sing. We had
lovely songs. We weren't allowed to sing, but...
We weren't allowed to sing.
We had lovely songs. We weren't allowed to sing, but...
My God. Anyway.
Went for a walk in the park, and then, we went to our local pub in the evening. So there was just a few friends from the local village. Yes, it was fabulous. Really great day. Much better than I actually expected that we'd be able to pull it together in 10 days. So I loved it.
Richard, did you ever think about maybe postponing for a bit?
No, we had the 4th of July booked for 2 years. It was always our date, and we just decided to hold on and just hold on. But when Boris first announced, we knew that should be the date that it should unlock by, and we were just holding out for the government to say that we could go ahead. And even if it was 5 people, we would have done it because we just wanted to get married.
Yeah, and what about all this sanitising rings and stuff? Kay asks them what were the good and the bad things about the wedding.
Just before I let you go, what was the highlight and what was the most challenging bit about the day for both of you?
Highlight, I think dancing down the aisle to Happy Days was great fun, and the most challenging,
I think, getting the ring on. Luckily, we did have the hand sanitizer, so that did help get my ring on, which is a bit tight. So that was probably the biggest challenge of the day.
Mad stuff, eh? Hand sanitizers and stuff, and all the rest of it. Listen, we'll leave that there now. Diane, who's been on the programme, I've got to mention transsexual woman, so you'll know who Diane is, was on the programme a few weeks back. Welsh lady living in Ireland now, and a brilliant interview with her a few weeks ago, a couple of months back. Sent me a tweet that Roderick O'Gorman, TD, so Roderick O'Gorman is this Green Party TD, he's a gay man, Minister for Children, and he retweeted somebody. Back in October of last year, he retweeted a woman who was impersonating a painting, apparently. And I don't know too much. I'm the world's least expert on art. It's not that I don't have any culture. I think I do. But as far as art, I didn't know. It's Francisco de Goya. Hayden Hewitt's been very helpful here. So Francisco de Goya is an artist and painted something called Saturno Devorando. How do you say that? Saturno Devorando a su hijo monster. It's basically a painting of a monster biting off somebody's head or biting off somebody's arm or something. And a woman has reenacted the painting. And this guy O'Gorman has retweeted it. The accusation being levelled against O'Gorman is that he's somehow liking child cannibalism or something like that. Now, whether he is or whether he isn't, I have no idea. I'm very interested in this stuff. And I know, because I'm connected to people on Twitter, people like Gemma O'Doherty and people like that, I know that they're going after this guy unmercifully. Because he met Tatchell 2 years ago and because of this painting, which I've only just learned. I don't know. I can't be of any more help. But it's an interesting story. It's hour. It's time for a tune while we get Dean Henderson live on from the southern state of Missouri. This is Candy Stanton on your Richie Allen Radio Show, live from Salford, the BBG.
What's the sense in sharing this one?
70s disco one time with the big silver mirror ball and everything and the flares and all of that. Yeah. Oh yeah. I did it all. It's about time we heard back from my guest today. I've known him for years and he's a magnificent bloke. He really is. He's a brilliant geopolitical analyst and commentator. He's an impeccably good writer and broadcaster. We last spoke at the turn of the year, I think, so it's quite some time back. His books are fantastic, and I will put links out to where you can find those books online. Let's welcome back to the programme, the one and the only, Mr. Dean Henderson. Delighted you're back on the programme, Dean. How are you?
I'm good, Richie. Great to talk again.
Thanks for coming back. The last time we spoke, your WordPress site, which was a treasure trove of information and brilliant articles that had been written by you and Jill going back years, had been deleted. And listeners were asking me, Dean, about whether the material on the website, the many, many articles and stories, were they archived, and is there some place where somebody can go to find them?
Yeah, well, that all happened in January of this year. At the same time, they froze our bank account, and there was no explanation of that either. We got to the point with this bank where they were telling us it was the people in the back room, and they didn't have a phone number. And interestingly, there was one other site at that time, the Aim for Truth people, who were attacked and taken down, and it was right before this COVID thing happened. And I really think it was because we were really focusing in on the crown. We were giving him a lot of problems. Harry left home. Prince Andrew got caught up in the Epstein net, and which is still ongoing with this Ghislaine Maxwell arrest, and does lead to the crown. It was a WordPress site, and so it's really hard because you need these WordPress plugins to get it going again, and WordPress won't let me back on there. So the good thing is about the information, is every single article on that site was in a book or is in a book. So either I wrote the book and then I gave away the chapters for free on the blog, or I took the writing that I did on the blog and put them into a book. So all the information is in books, in print, where it's secure, because let's face it, the way the internet's going, nothing on the internet is you can't count on archiving anything on a thing called the internet that was created by the Pentagon to be a weapon used against us. And yes, we've turned it against them in many ways, but in the end, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. So I just sort of walked away from writing. I sort of walked away from the internet, and I've been hiking and I've been getting healthy. But I'm still doing interviews, and the books are doing well. So all I can tell people is it's all in the books.
Brilliant. And where should people go to get the books? I mean, I mentioned famous online retailers. Where should they go to buy them?
Yeah, unfortunately, the only place to go is Amazon, and that's because I self-publish. I could never have gotten any publisher to touch these books, and I can't afford to print them myself. So it's all through Amazon. You can get the print or the PDF copies there. And people don't like Amazon, and I don't either. But the fact of the matter is, you get a lot better percentage this way than you do if you go through a publisher or a publishing house, where they're pretty much going to run you through the ringer, and you're not going to see anything out of it. So, but yeah, just go to Amazon.com. Just type in Dean Henderson Amazon if you're interested in the books. Is the easy way.
Good job, Dean. Dean Henderson is our guest. A lot to get into with Dean. Before we talk about coronavirus, let's talk about the arrest of Ghislaine Maxwell and what that means for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and the victims of the many socialites and politicians and business people that Epstein was taken to that island. I don't mean to be tabloid about our conversation. I wouldn't dream of it. But do you expect Ghislaine Maxwell to make it to her own trial? Or do we suspect something might befall her? Might she be in some trouble?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they can't afford to have her talking in a courtroom. And my guess is she probably would talk. And you can pretty much bet they're going to try to do her in, just like they did Epstein in prison. The way I see it, Richie, is Epstein is the Mossad cutout here. Maxwell, who's
right, Dean has dropped out there. We might have to do this the old-fashioned way. There is a very weak connection there at the moment. Dean is in the middle of nowhere.
She definitely hangs out with the crowd.
Dean, we lost you there for a minute. You dropped out. Now, I do have a phone number that you gave me. So if it happens again, I might even phone you. Will I phone you? Because I've got the phone number. I'll tell you what, would you be happy doing it over the phone?
Yeah, that's fine, Richie. If you can't hear me, that's okay. Whatever works.
Yeah, we'll carry on for a minute because you're back in the room and it's lovely and clear.
Okay.
It's just it dropped out for a second. So I asked you about Maxwell, and you said that if she was to talk, I mean, if she was to testify, or if she was to cooperate to receive a lighter sentence, that would be doom for a lot of people. So you don't expect her to ever appear in a courtroom. That's kind of where we got to. And you were talking about her, and of course her father, her father's disappearance, of course.
Sure. Yeah. And I think, I guess what I'm saying is I think we're moving up the chain here, because Epstein, I think, is the Mossad agent. My research and understanding of it is that Mossad agents work for the Crown. They work, their superiors are British intelligence, just like the CIA. The superiors are British intelligence. So I think Ghislaine Maxwell is the British intelligence agent here, with really strong connections to the Crown. And let's face it, this pedophile network, it goes way up to the billionaire, trillionaire class, to the Nephilim crown families that I talk about in my last book. And she is the direct connection, I think, to those families. So I think there's every chance she just gets snuffed in jail. They can't afford it. And then, so, people just need to try to hold the local authorities accountable this time, I guess, and make sure it doesn't happen. But that's a difficult thing to do.
I saw a tweet a few days ago from, I think it was Gilad Atzmon, and it was of an article that was in The Sun, and it was about Epstein's ties to the Israeli Secret Service, Mossad. Because when we do these conversations, people get very upset and they say, why does Dean Henderson bring Mossad into it? But a number of mainstream newspapers have run articles over the last couple of years linking Epstein and his activities to the Israeli Secret Service group Mossad. And Mossad is believed to have been responsible for the death of Rupert Murdoch. Robert Maxwell. I'm right in saying that, am I?
Yeah. I think that's for sure. And they probably are the ones that also killed Epstein in his jail cell, because again, Mossad does the dirty work, but they're working for this country called Israel, which is an entity that was placed in the Middle East by the City of London to control the oil and the capitalist interest in that region, the banks and everything else. And so, people just have to understand Israel is not really a country. It's just it's a colonial outpost, just like Saudi Arabia is in the same way. So, nobody can accuse me of being an anti-Semite, because the Saudis are the exact same sort of entity. They just happen to be, leading the Muslim Brotherhood, and the Israeli outpost, is disguised under the Judaism. But it's all this Zionist project, which is the grafting of the Nephilim blood onto the human blood. And it's all about Israel and Saudi Arabia being in this geographic location in the Middle East that's right in the center of the Eurasian landmass. Therefore, there's going to be a trade, there's going to be smuggling, there's going to be all kinds of interests that want to control that area. So that's the thing people just have to understand. It's not about nation states anymore. It's about this New World Order, bloodline controlled oligarchy, global oligarchy, and Israel is doing their job in their part. Saudi's doing their job. The U.S. does its job. China does its job. And it looks to me more like China's job is going to get much more important here for the crown. And they're going to be the country that probably defends them instead of the United States in the very near future. And I think that's when we get into this COVID. I think, literally the United States is under attack here, Richie. And we're under attack because we're a free country. We're not perfect, but we've been the most free country. And we fought the crown, King George, back in 1776. We actually fought the bastards and won, temporarily at least. They came back, infiltrated us, control us now, yes. But they hate the fact that there's freedom in the world. And this is all about taking away people's freedom. So you have to take the most free country and make it the example, and make it the worst amount of cases, fake cases, the worst amount of deaths, even though the deaths are from other things. And you have to really go after the American model of freedom, where people can move around, people can, at least do certain things without, having to answer to some oligarchy or some caste system or some crown.
Let me argue with that now, because we're running a story today, or the UK media is running a story about the Chinese telecom giant Huawei, which is ahead of the game on 5G. It's ahead of its competitors. And the UK was using Huawei to obviously help roll out 5G in this country. But it seems that an extraordinary amount of pressure was brought to bear on the UK by the United States government to basically tell Huawei to go and take a running jump. And, if we look at the Iraq war and Blair basically going to George Bush like a serf and, saying, we'll go with you. No matter what you do, we'll go with you. We'll be there for you. Some of my listeners, and I know where you're going with this, and you'll have all the time in the world to explain it. Some of our listeners will say, Dean, it looks like the United States is in complete control of UK policies, not just foreign policies, but even domestic policies as well. What would you say to that?
Well, I would say that's definitely the perception that's being, put out there by the establishment. Because, again, the crown hides behind all kinds of different entities. They hide behind Israel. They let Israel take flack. They hide behind the United States military. They let it take flack. So Blair comes to Bush, and everybody says Blair's Bush's poodle. That's the mantra. That's what you're supposed to say. That's what you're supposed to think. That's what you're supposed to spread to all your friends. And you're cool if you do it. You're really in, and you're really fashionable if you say that. The matter is, Bush is a blood relative of the Windsor family, bloodline, Plantagenet family. one of the 13 Nephilim crown families. Okay, the Bush family's part of that Windsor clan. And so what actually is going on here is it's made to look like the UK stands in the background, reluctantly goes to war, and the United States is the big bully, and behind it all is the crown. And then who gets the first oil contracts in Iraq? Well, it was British Petroleum in Basra, and it was Royal Dutch Shell in Kirkuk. So who got the benefit of that war? While we fought the war, the United States, with our tax dollars, our boys died. We get the black eye. We're made to look bad. But it's not, you have to understand, it's not the people of the UK. The people of the UK are just as attacked by this crown, which, by the way, isn't just in the UK either. I'm not just talking about the Windsor family. I'm talking about the Khan family. I'm talking about the Yamamoto family in Japan. I'm talking about the Li family in China, which is why it's so easy to see the crown just shifting to China, because part of the crown is in China. So it's not the UK. The City of London Crown that I'm talking about, the Crown Corporation, entity this, and they're exploiting the citizens of England just as badly as they are anywhere else, and worse in the case of the Irish. So, it's just these perceptions that are created, by the crown. Like, everybody's mad at Gates now. Well, me too. Yeah, he's a creep. Okay, but what is Gates? Let's look at Gates. Okay, so in 2005, Gates was given was knighted by the Queen of England, by the crown. ABE status, not Sir, because the ones that sit back on their estates. And
we are losing you a little bit, Dean. What I'm going to do is we're
agenda of the crown.
We're losing you. Gates. Hang on a sec, Dean. We are losing you a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take. We're losing. I'm going to take a tune, and what I'm going to do then is call him back the old-fashioned way, on the old dog and bone. In the meantime, we'll take a tune. What have I got? I've not got anything great lined up. The Hollies, there you are. That'll have to do, won't it? Here's the Hollies. And he ain't heavy, he's my brother. I'll give Dean a call on the phone. Back with him in a minute. It's going to get very interesting, this conversation. Right, the Hollies then. Sorry to cut Graham Nash short, but you have to do it. We want more time with Dean Henderson. And we've connected via the phone now. I hope it's all working. Welcome back, Dean. Sorry about that.
No, thanks, Richie. It's not you. It's just, we know what it is. It's the same people that blocked our communications for the last 3 months. So hopefully this will hold up. But I was getting into Bill Gates, and I was getting, that's just why they cut me off, I'm sure, because the thing is, Bill Gates, everybody, again, it's like fashionable now, even in the conspiracy community, everybody wants to just rain on Bill Gates, and me too. He's a horrible person, if even a person. But the fact of the matter is, Bill Gates is not what he appears. He was knighted in 2005 by Queen Elizabeth. He got a status of KBE, which is, usually you get a Sir, like if you did something in music like Elton John, or if you did something, to promote the crown's interest, you get Sir or something. But he's Bill Gates KBE, and that means Knight Commander of the British Empire. So Bill Gates is part of a military operation which is being run by the crown, which is against this, in this instance, all of humanity. The nation states where there's war between China and Russia, that's over. What it is now is you have this oligarchy so entrenched around the world, and they have such control of the technology now that they literally are launching a war on humanity. And Bill Gates is one of the knight commanders of that war against humanity, as I see it. So everything is not what it seems. And the COVID is just the metaphor for all of that. And so is I Can't Breathe, with George Floyd, because it's more than George Floyd who can't breathe right now. I mean, people are being squeezed by the system. The knee of the system, the knee of the crown is on our necks again. And they've done this over and over 8,000 years. And they're doing it again. And this time it's serious, because they really do want to take out a whole big chunk of humanity. So this is a psychological operation. This is a beta test of the hive mind for their 5G. This is machine learning, where they're studying how are the humans going to react to being locked down? How are the humans going to react to social distancing and isolation and torture and mind control. How are they going to react? How far down the road have we got them with Facebook, with the internet, with this hive mind, with everybody has to think the same, everybody has to talk the same, everybody has to do the same. Where are we at? And then they'll take it to the next phase. But I'm telling you right now, it's the crown. And this is the part that's always missing. You know, everybody talks about Event 201. They mention Gates. They mention Soros. They don't mention the crown, and they don't mention AstraZeneca. They don't mention GlaxoSmithKline. These are the two pharmaceutical companies that the crown controls, and these are the two companies coming up with the vaccine.
They're working hard for the vaccine. Let me jump in there. A couple of things I want to just acknowledge. When you mentioned W, Baby Bush being related to the Queen, he's her 11th cousin once removed on her mother's side. So you're absolutely bang on there. And you talk about Gates getting this honorary knighthood. It really kills me to say this, but another pawn of the crown is Bono, who was given an honorary knighthood some years ago as well. And when he received his honorary knighthood, he did that single eye pose, you know, where they put the hand over the eye and all of that nonsense, the old seeing eye. And I wonder, and of course Bono is hugely important in pushing vaccines in places like Africa. So I'd like to return to that. This is really interesting. But what I'd like to do, and I know you can stand up to it, so I'm going to challenge you, because there's so many people hearing this for the very first time. When you talk about the crown, are you saying that the Queen and her husband, that institution, that little inner circle, that they're basically running stuff, that they're the biggest chess players in the world, they're pushing the pieces around?
Yeah, and it's not just them. It goes back to there's these, you know, basically it's all the city of London, okay? The UK is called the United Kingdom for a reason. And again, it's not the people. The people in the UK are pawns, are being attacked by this thing. But the United Kingdom became the United Kingdom because that's what it is. It's a united kingdom. It's where the kings and queens and the bloodlines do go all the way back to the Anunnaki in Sumeria 8,000 years ago, then became the pharaohs in Egypt, then came to Europe and ran the Holy Roman Empire, then moved up the coast of Venice, then went to Germany and became the Dutch East India Company, then moved over to the island. And they moved to the UK because it's an island, and at that time the Navy could defend it against every peasant horde in the world, every pirate ship in the world. There's nobody could touch it. So they moved to this island called the UK, and they moved all their wealth there, and they intermarried. And yes, the Queen is a big part of it, but there's, like I say, there's families all over the world. The Habsburgs are very powerful. The Merovingians are very powerful. The Bourbons, the King of Spain is very powerful.
And are these people,
family.
Dean, sorry to interrupt you, these powerful families and people, and I know you and I have had these conversations before, and I know you get bored when you're asked the same questions, but you're brilliant to be patient because it's new for a lot of people. Are these families, are they in direct conversation with one another about the agendas that we see unfolding in front of our eyes?
Yes.
And how do we know that?
Well, here's one for you. One of the leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement, and we can get into all this too.
Yeah.
Patrice Khan Colors, Khan, Khan. That's the Khan family. Okay, every Indian prime minister ever, just like every American president has been a Plantagenet bloodline. Every UK president, including Obama, by the way, that's why he's a cousin of Cheney. Every Indian president has come from the Khan bloodline, Khan. The current prime minister of Pakistan is a Khan. Genghis Khan was part of this cabal. That's why he was a brutal murderer.
Yeah.
So there's the Sikh family is another one. It's all connected to this. The Shah, the Shah tribe, which is the Shahs of Iran, which is Zaire Shah in Afghanistan. See, these are all parts of this crown, and they really did descend, from the Nephilim, from their fallen angels. They're not human. So they hate humanity. That's why Prince Philip said, he wishes he was a virus and he could come back and say 90% killed 90% of humanity, and look what's happening now, or whatever.
And he meant that. That bastard meant that when he said it. I know he did. Yeah, I remember it. He did mean it. Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
And all these, and just the whole idea that a bloodline has the blue bloods. What does that mean? Why is their blood different? What's Rh negative? So these are different entities, but they hide behind people like Gates. They hide behind people like Bush. They hide behind countries like Israel. They hide behind countries like the U.S. And right now it's the China model. It's all about the China model, which is what David Rockefeller called the China experiment. When Kissinger met Deng Xiaoping in 1973, I'm an old socialist like you, Richie. I supported Mao Zedong. But Mao Zedong called Deng Xiaoping a capitalist rotor. And that's what he was. And so when he met with Kissinger to do détente in 1973, they said two things. They said, okay, you're going to have this one-child policy where you keep the boys and you leave the girls in the markets just to be taken away and killed or whatever. Why? Because we need the boys to work in the factories. And if you do that, we're going to bring Walmart to China. We're going to bring all the companies to China. We're going to base them here, and we're going to build your country up. So what did China do? They did that. They made the devil's bargain. Then they developed all this high-tech technology, which they experimented on with the Uyghurs out in Western China at these concentration camps. Then they seeded it throughout their society with the cameras and the social crediting. And now it's coming to the West. And the way it's coming to the West is this fake pandemic called COVID. And this is what this is all about, is bringing in the 5G, fourth industrial revolution. That's what this is all about. Now, did 5G cause this? I don't think it helps, because people are getting sick because of Wi-Fi, 4G, 5G, glyphosates, fluoride, all kinds of things they've been poisoning us with. This is all corporate poisoning. When you hear about a virus, think corporate poisoning. And they hide behind this thing called a virus, which to my mind is something that comes out of your cell to defend against corporate poisoning. And this whole germ theory concept is another thing. It's called a theory for a reason, just like the evolutionary theory, just like the Big Bang theory, just like all these things that came up with the Crown, Chatham House, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, the Royal Geographic Society, all the Crown institutions came up with all these theories that they tell us is the reality of where we live and how we live and who we are. But every single one of them is a theory. And they have to tell you that because it's a contract, and they don't want to get sued when you find out it's just total bullshit.
That being said, Dean, I interviewed Dr. Kaufman, and I had a back and forth with him, and he was good, he was nice, and he was accommodating. But I said to him, look, if you're in a room, I mean, I'm one of these guys, despite the fact that I've never smoked a cigarette or a joint in my life, I'm one of these guys, if I'm in a room and people have got the flu, I get it. I'm a guy just absolutely go down with whatever's going around. So I wonder about germ theory. I'm fairly convinced that when we sneeze, that we do, put out, I shouldn't say pathogens, but we do put out, I don't want to say disease either, but we do put out infections. Listen, that's what I think. It doesn't mean I'm right. But I had this back and forth with him. I'm with you. I mean, just before you came on, Dean, all the statistics that are emerging from the National Health Service here in the UK are saying that this virus is really nothing, really. It's much ado about nothing. And yet they're talking about extending this fucking, excuse my language, this lockdown for months and months and months and months and making it worse. And so you have to wonder. But look, I'm not just being pedantic on the germ theory thing. I just feel that when something goes around, I always get it,
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, and I don't know for sure, and I'm not a doctor, and I haven't studied it enough. But it's just interesting because, I was thinking about it yesterday. I was thinking the exact same thing. I was thinking, well, okay, if that's true, germ theory is not, then how come, the little kids make you sick and all?
Yeah.
But you never, maybe we're just so brainwashed that we don't realize that, okay, maybe we got sick because we were all in the same room and we were all drinking some shitty water,
yeah,
out of the same tap. Or maybe we were breathing the same shitty air in that room. Or, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, fair enough. I just think
a lot of what's going on is a cover for corporate pollution. And the Crown came up with corporations. The East India Company was the first. And why'd they do it? So they could hide behind, they could exploit and pollute and do genocide and hide behind a corporate title so you couldn't really hold them responsible. So it's all sort of this mercantilist model, which is where it's all going. It's all going back to pretty much laissez-faire, free market madness, mercantilism, just so funny to hear the alt-right talking about how we're all going socialist on them. It's like nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah.
We're going back to a medieval system where a few bloodline families control all of us, and they have us eating bug sandwiches and living in 10 by 10 hovels in our own prisons. And that's where we're going. And it's all going to be, engineered electronically.
Let me ask you this thing. Let me ask on the electronic thing. How do you convince a listener in the UK who's hearing you for the first time? Now, I believe the agenda that you've described in your books over the years is unfolding. I think you're a bit of a genius. I like arguing with you, but I think you're a bit of a genius. I really do. How do you convince somebody that a little old lady with blue hair is somehow interested in agendas where, we'll get microchips into people's brains so that they can interface with the internet, that we will slowly but surely turn people into kind of half human, half machines, which we know they're doing? How do you get people to believe that there's a few families in the world who've got everything, they live in the lap of luxury, they've got great lives? What in the name of Christ, excuse my blasphemy, why would they want to be doing that? Especially a cuddly little old lady who comes out every now and then to wave at people. They won't buy it. That's what I'm saying,
Yeah, no, it's really hard because we're so inculcated with this idea that is not only are they not evil, which they are, or not human, which they are, but actually that they're something to be aspired to. But you just have to understand that that's all part of the programming. I mean, as soon as you're, little girls, we call them princesses, and, a deck of cards, we have kings and jacks and queens, and I mean, in chess, and I mean, everything around us has been set up to where the crown is cast in a good light. Not only a good light, but something that everyone should aspire to and wish they could be, and you have to ask yourself, why is that? And that's maybe just such a basic question. And I think when we're little kids and we're growing up, and I think we actually see that. We actually see probably that those kind of people, they're kind of nuts, It's like, what the hell are these people doing marching around with these fuzzy hats, and what the hell, And then of course, socialization comes in. Your parents, God bless them, but they don't know any better, and they tell you they're good, and the school tells you they're good, and everybody tells you they're good. But it's just, why would any certain bunch of people have to go to that extent to cast themselves in a good light? And maybe that's the most basic question people should just ask themselves. And then for me, it's just follow the money, cui bono. And so I wrote my first book, Big O. I did a master's thesis on it. I found out who owned the oil companies. Okay, from there I found out who owned the banks, because the banks own the oil companies. So then you got to find out who owns the bank. So then you got to find out who owns the banks. So then you got to find out how the banks organize, which is in the central banking cartels, like the Federal Reserve or the Bank of England. So then you got to find out, okay, who owns the who owns the shares in that? And then you just follow it to the families, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and then you find out, the Red Shield, the Rothschild. I see the Red Shield is shielding the crown. I see. So they're the richest family, but they're just into banking. They're not the most powerful family, because there's these other families that are into everything, like pedophilia, like drug trafficking, like just complete debauchery. I mean, things that doesn't even involve money, just power, just sheer power and sickness and psychosis. And so you just follow that up, and this is just what I came to, and the dots connect. But you have to know your history, and you have to know, you can't just believe. Well, you can't believe anything from the mainstream, anything, because it's all designed to protect the crown, and the crown agents, like the Rothschilds, like Bill Gates, the minions, the people that work for them, and they all, in the end, they all work for them. And this is the whole origin of money. Because they use the money to buy people off. And they say, okay, Gates, you can be the richest guy in America, but guess what? Here's the price. Now you have to go around and you have to be the chief killer with your vaccinations and with your, all your crazy stuff and your investments and your friendship with Epstein into his creepy AI stuff. And it just all connects. It all connects. And they're all one big club. And now it's to the point, I think, where they have the political parties in all countries kind of stowed up, and there's they thought there was no viable resistance. But I want to shift gears a little bit into this protest situation in the United States, because I think it's very nuanced, and I think some people are off base a little bit on analyzing it. I think the initial protests against George Floyd were awesome. And they were burning Wells Fargo Bank in Minneapolis. They were burning Target stores. They were looting big chains and banks, and they were going after some good targets. It wasn't Black Lives Matter. The news media never reported that was Black Lives Matter organizing those protests. That was spontaneous. That was kids saying, I can't breathe. 5G's in my neighborhood. I can't breathe. You just destroyed my future with your COVID lockdown lie. I can't breathe. I'm 24 and I'm never going to have a decent job because of what you just did. And it was more than George Floyd. It was more than black and white. It was a class struggle, genuine, and it came out. And it's still going, and they are trying to hijack it. This is the other part. They're trying to hijack
corporations
it now with Black Lives Matter, which is George Soros, Ford Foundation, the con woman who runs it, the 3 lesbian leaders who hate men, who hate whites, who want to introduce this transgender, misgender, whatever, this craziness into the debate and basically divide people instead of, unifying people, which is what we want to do.
But hang on a second now. There's an argument. There's a contradiction there, because those people who burned the Wells Fargo, those people who burned the Target, what if I was to say to you that I'd be terrified if those people were to get their way? Because on the one hand, you're making a case for them because they seem to be awake. But I might argue with you. I might say, well, these people are violent. And if they succeed through violence, well, do I have to live under their rule then? And if they don't like me, or if my existence somehow, offends them, do I have to expect violence at the end of it? Because I've always believed in non-violent disobedience as a means to hurting these people. But I'm not too excited about people burning down banks being the good guys. I don't think they are the good guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess. I am excited about people burning down banks. That's just me. I mean, I'm a revolutionary. Yeah. I mean, we can sit here and talk about all this stuff ad infinitum, all these shows and all this, and it's great. But until rubber hits the road and we start doing stuff, and guess what? If we, there was no violence, I wouldn't call that violence because nobody died, nobody got hurt even. Just Wells Fargo, which is one of the Rothschild's banks, burned to the ground. They lost money. That's the only reason those 3 cops were arrested. Those 4 cops were arrested. That's the only reason. And that's the only reason there's anything being done right now. Then you get into the statues and you go, oh, it's all good or it's all bad. Because that's how we're trained. We're hive mind. We're one way or the other, right? It ain't like that. Hey, Albert Pike's statue went down. The guy's a 33rd degree Mason. He brought this shit to this country. Freemasons are tools of the crown. Officially, they are tools of the crown. They're crown agents. It's all bad. If you don't know that and you're Freemason, I'm sorry, but you're being used. Then he prosecuted the Indian Wars. Then he started the Ku Klux Klan. Take that shit down. Take that shit out of my town. And take the Confederate generals out of my town too, because they lost. They're traitors. They work for the Rothschilds and the Crown, which tried to tear America apart for the cotton plantation slave owners in the South. But here's the other side. You get into tearing down George Washington, tearing down Abraham Lincoln, who emancipated slaves, tearing down Teddy Roosevelt, who was a trust buster, who was a good guy. Then that's crazy talk. So what I'm saying is there's a genuine revolutionary urge in America right now and all around the world now because people are desperate. And they're really, this lockdown, okay, if they did a beta test of the hive mind, it might have failed because what we're seeing a pulse. We're seeing a pulse, and that's a good thing. But what they're doing with Black Lives Matter and Antifa is they're trying to steer it into a race war, into not a unifying thing, into a division fest because they fund that stuff. And so that's what we're up against here. But it's still fluid. And there's still a situation where we don't know which way this is going to go. And I'll be honest with you, Richie, I'm just glad that people are out in the streets. I really am, because what are we going to do? Are we going to sit here on the internet and do talk shows until they just fucking kill us all?
I hear you. Listen, nobody agrees with that. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree.
I feel like I should be there doing some of this shit a little more. I'm out in the middle of nowhere, and I just almost feel bad because I'm not there helping do some of it. But here's what we got to do. We got to teach these kids. We got to teach them. They got to listen to these shows. They got to find out who is behind all this. And that's what I'm not hearing enough of, and we never do, is like, who really is behind all this stuff? And that's what we got to talk about, and it's the crown, okay? And it's just this crown, and it's that's who it is, and that's why is nobody talking about that? I love David Icke. I learned so much from him. But why is he calling it a cult now and not the crown? He used to call it, when I read Children of the Matrix and The Biggest Secret, I was like, whoa, taught me so much. Respect that guy so much, but why won't he talk about the crown anymore? Why is nobody talking about the crown? Do you just want to fucking die? Jesus, we gotta get precise, and we gotta teach these kids what's going on and who's behind this. These are the white supremacists. The Crown created slavery with the East India Company. The Crown genocided the Indians with fucking Christopher Columbus and all this other bullshit everywhere else. The Crown is behind 5G. Crown Castle put up the towers. General Electric's got the smart meters. Bill Gates just bought a big chunk of Crown Castle. They own GlaxoSmithKline. They own AstraZeneca. That's the vaccine makers. They own the whole damn thing. They're putting it all together. This is their next thing. And it's just, so here's what we have to do. We have to teach the kids where to direct the energy, where to direct the anger. Because eventually, if we don't all get in the streets, and if we don't all go after this thing, what are we going to do? So I would like to just propose a few nice targets here. The Federal Reserve Bank would be a nice target. The Bank of England would be nice. Now, I'm not advocating violence, and I'm not advocating anything, but I'm just saying, because, look, it's the end game. Okay, we're being attacked. We have every right to defend ourselves. We have every right to disobey the lockdown. We have every right to go out in the street and do everything we want to do, which is exactly what I've been doing for 8 months. We have every right not to wear a mask. We have every right to have a democracy, to have a constitution, to have our freedoms. And I would much rather go down fighting than I would, what they're trying to do.
Doing 1,000 talk shows. Listen, I hear you. On the inaction, I hear you. I've laid awake nights, months. I've lost months of sleep, wondering about what to do about it. Because you're right, sitting on talk shows and talking about it till you go blue in the face isn't doing anything really. And I don't even believe anymore that it's necessarily even helping to sound the alarm. I think what shows have become is a kind of a meeting place for people who realise what's going on and they just need some sort of comfort. They just need some sort of realization that I'm not going crazy. But at the same time, I have this is it. But at the same time, I believe that they are trying to provoke a violent reaction from the people. And I will, much as I love you, and I always will, I'll argue with you till both of us are on our dying, are breathing our dying breath. I will argue. The best way to deal with these entities is to turn your back on them. And the way to do that is locally to start disobeying. Locally, people to get together and care about one another for the first time ever and be interested in people and say, right, we're not paying your taxes. Right, we're not doing this. Right, we're not doing that. It's no good if one or two guys do it because they just bang them up. They put them in a police car. But if whole communities do it, if whole neighbourhoods do it, say, listen, stick your council tax, stick it where the sun doesn't shine. Stick your police patrols, stick your whatever. I've always believed that, the Gandhi mantra, we won't comply.
I agree. It's all good.
Yeah.
And
how do you even go about that?
And everybody has their tactical approach, okay? And I've always been more of a militant. I really have. That's just who I am, okay? And what I was impressed with about what happened here a little bit was there wasn't a lot of criticism from the main, not the mainstream, but just from I don't know, say you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, you believe in nonviolence. Great. I mean, I do too. I mean, I'm not a violent person, but I'm just saying, if you're attacked, I do believe you should have the right to defend yourself. And even Gandhi said, he said, I prefer violence to cowardice. That's a quote from Gandhi. Okay.
Yeah.
He said that. And so I think the important thing is not to let them divide us over tactics either. If people want to do it one way, great. If people want to do it another way, great. But I'm not going to judge either way. I'm not going to say, oh, you're too violent. I'm not going to say, oh, you're too passive. And I just think that's, again, it's just another way. There's so many ways they can divide us. And what I'm about is unity. What I'm about is let's see how many white people there were in those initial protests before Black Lives Matter came in and hijacked it and tore down Abraham Lincoln or whatever and did stupid shit. There were a lot of them. There was a lot of white people, and it was so awesome. And they were 24, 22 young people, and they really don't have a future. And I just think there's a moment here where people are really at a gut level, they sense that they're under attack, that they're all George Floyd, that their necks are all being knelt on by this system.
You see the opportunity, Dean. You see an opportunity there to reach people.
I do.
And I'm not being negative now. I'm not being negative at all. I'm not. It's going to sound like I am, but I'm not. Getting people to even consider that the Twin Towers were brought down deliberately is so hard, right? It's so difficult. And I believe that there is some sort of element to this. There, I do believe these bloodlines, and I do believe these people, some of them are into some pretty dark stuff. I really do believe that. But I can't get my closest friends to pay any attention. They really think it's just bullshit, Richie, that's crazy. How could a guy like you with your education, Richie, you see, they throw it back in my face that I've got a couple of degrees, So they say, how could you entertain any of this bullshit, Richie? And they're good guys now. They're good people. They're decent people. But they're like, I'm not buying it, Richie. It's crazy. They won't even buy that 9/11 was an inside job, Yeah,
I know. It's the brainwashing is heavy. I will say when the COVID thing first came around, it seemed like a lot of people who were rejecting all of this information, all of a sudden, some of them were calling me, wondering, waking up a little bit. So that did jolt people. That's what it's going to take. It's just going to take a desperate situation. And I feel like right now we're sort of in this lull period where, the first wave or whatever, it's done, the lockdown, we're getting free again. Well, we're not really. But it's kind of like a complacency set in, and that's what they want. They want people to be complacent and sort of, just relax. Don't worry, nothing else is coming, even though, there's something big coming this fall, I'm pretty sure. And so now they're kind of going away, and those people aren't interested anymore. They don't want to talk to me anymore. You know what I mean? But it's just going to be, how bad is it going to have to get? And I'm really afraid that precisely because of what you're saying, that people are not open to the truth. It doesn't matter. You can give them 950 footnotes, like in my first book. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's all facts. Doesn't matter. You just go to Quora or you go to, factchecker.com and they say it's not true because they're the Illuminati sites, and then it's not true. So it doesn't matter. I mean, they're just so programmed and gullible. They're so gullible. People are so gullible. That's what's happened. And I think the vaccinations have made people more gullible over the years. All this toxic stuff that we're talking about, whether it's the EMF waves or the food or the air, it's just all made people more gullible. Plus just the acts of terrorism by the Crown, which they're behind all terrorism. They killed Kennedy through Brinco. They did 9/11 through Securicom. I mean, they did all this stuff. Just a timeline. Every single war, every single, corona means crown in Spanish, right? It also means the aura around an electrical field. So I think even to the point where like all the coronaviruses, probably like the Arthur Firstenberg thesis in his book, The Invisible Rainbow, came about these advents of new technological advancements in electricity, which has all been the Crown. RCA Corporation came out with sonar. That was the first of this kind of crap. And they've been behind the whole electrification of the planet all the way along through General Electric, through Serco. I mean, it's all facts. It's all traceable. It's all just look it up, Google it yourself, watch Serco's own video on its website about. I mean, it's all there, but it doesn't matter because these people are brainwashed by the mainstream media. They're fixated on the screen. You go to a gas station now, they have TV screens in the gas stations.
Yeah.
Because they have to keep people fixed to the screens, man, because that's where the propaganda comes from. And there's just more and more of that. And it shows you how desperate they are. And also, Richie, I think it's no coincidence that this did come around right when Bernie Sanders was leading the Democrat primary. It came around right when the Crown was under increasing scrutiny. And this is like a 2016 type event, which, the election between Clinton and Trump was an event where we had a lot of awareness going in, say, 13, 14, 15, about the Rothschilds, about the Fed, about the Crown. And then here comes this divisive election, and it just kind of shut people down. And I see the same thing happening with this COVID. Like they did it at the time when they were kind of on the ropes, you know. Epstein just got killed. Prince Andrew, you know, they want a warrant for him. And Harry splits to Canada, and Bernie's in the... Oh, my God, they freaked out. You got to do it now. Okay, they did it. And so that shuts down the consciousness, you know, and it makes people scared. And anytime you're in a state of fear, you're not thinking straight. So the timing of all this is very interesting. But I still think we got a shot. I still think it's a back and forth here. And I do think the most of the street protests, most of the people involved in those are genuine. Yes, there's leaders who are, you know, bought off by Soros and the Ford Foundation. They're going to try to take it a certain way. But we have to talk about that. I mean, honestly, I think Black Lives Matter and Antifa are both CIA operations run by Soros, run by NGOs, because that's what Soros does. I mean, he did it in Georgia. He did it, you know, he's done it all over the world. He's done it in Turkey. It's on like 50 countries. He's done coups, you know, in Algeria and Tunisia, and I mean, all over the world. So he's doing it now here. He's trying to hijack what they saw coming. But it's all algorithms. So they knew this was coming. They knew there'd be a reaction. And they had this ready. They had this operation ready. And
well,
so
didn't the Rockefeller Foundation? I interviewed a guy called Harry Vox recently. Now Harry is a bit like Marmite. People love him, and a lot of people don't like him. People believe he's grotesquely anti-Semitic, and others like him. I like him. I interviewed him one time and one time only. And Harry, back in 2014, made an amazing video back in 2014 because he saw a Rockefeller Foundation document from 2010, which basically described what we're going through now. And I've seen the document myself. Yeah. It's available to anybody. It's astonishing. Isn't it astonishing, isn't it? I mean, it's astonishing. Yes, they basically said they created a scenario narrative whereby they told a little story in a document of a pandemic and how it could be dealt with. And it's all in there. Lockdowns, everything. Christ, it's disgusting. Yeah. 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's called lockstep, and this is called lockdown. So
that's right.
You know, there you go. And no, this is a script. This is totally it's a script. And you can just watch as things shut down. Well, here's an example of how they're just wiped out small business in America. So the little restaurants had to shut down. The big restaurants with drive-thrus like McDonald's and Burger King, which had put in double drive-through things in the last 5-6 years. That's kind of an interesting timing thing, right?
Did they really?
And they're ready for it.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Drive-through, triple drive-through, something. And then so they stayed open, and not only did they stay open, but they could like hire 2 people, one to take the order, one to cook the food. So they had 2 people working in these drive-thrus, right? And so they're saving money, the big corporations, and they're laying people off, but they're running their competition out of business. And the same thing happens with Uber and with Grubhub, you know, and all these in the telemedicine, you know, industry, which is all Israeli owned. And all this stuff that was waiting in the wings, all this 5G oriented Internet of Things stuff that these companies were waiting in the wings, and boom. And now they're going to the moon, and they're, you know, it's the 4th industrial revolution, Richie. That's what it's all about. They have to take out the industrial base. They have to take out the cows with their fake beef, which, by the way, Bill Gates is invested in also. And they have to transform the economy. And if you're going to transform the economy, you have to put people in kind of a trance, you know. You have to scare the hell out of them. Yeah. And that's really what this is about, is that. So, I mean, whether or not, you know, what does a virus mean? What is it? You know, people get sick. Why do they get sick? Whatever that is, it's out of my league, okay? But I just know that the main reason for all this is to usher in the 4th industrial revolution, the 5G economy in the world. And then it's just going to be even easier to control people, target people, influence people.
Hey, by the way, sorry, Dean, on 5G, I don't believe that there is any evidence that 5G had anything to do with the outbreak. Now, before you jump down my throat, I've interviewed people like Chris Busby, who's about the world's greatest expert on non-ionizing radiation. And Christopher Busby tells me that 5G is a game changer in terms of the negative impact it's going to have on our health. I totally believe that. And I know 300 really reputable scientists have said that 5G is going to be catastrophic for humanity, and I totally believe that as well. But I think some of the more well-known commentators in the independent media, might have been a bit more shrewd when talking about 5G. What Chris Busby said was, wait for this now, he told me this. Chris Busby said that if you have a virus, if you've got a bit of an infection already, right, so you might have a bit of a chesty cough or you might have a bit of a lung thing, 5G will do for you. And he was very interested in the proximity of 5G towers to hospitals. And that's an area that is very interesting, no doubt in my mind. But as for the 5G, it's obviously going to be catastrophic for people. All these things are happening. I tell my friends, I don't have too many close friends, but I tell them, the ones that don't believe me, the ones I'm in contact with via email because I've not been back to Ireland for donkey's years, and I tell them, look, all these things are fucking happening. This stuff is going on. You know, they are putting this 5G stuff out there. It's going to do terrible things to people. They are killing millions of people around the world on a monthly basis through their arms sales to Saudi Arabia to destroy Yemen, and they are funding fucking terrorist groups like Al-Shabaab and ISIS to cause carnage. They're doing all this shit, and they are putting vaccines into children. 16 vaccines into a child before a child is 4 or 5 when there's no need for it. They're doing all this shit, so you've got to consider that it might be related, that this stuff might actually be related. And they look at me with glassy eyes when I speak to them. But I believe it's happening. But I'm going to say something to you now. And you come back in then. And I want to say to my listeners, please don't be upset. Please don't get emotional. Just listen to me. We're fucked. I don't agree with Dean. I don't agree with my friend, Jean Ann. I don't agree with my missus, Caroline. I believe we're fucked. There's no way. If time is not linear, which I don't think it is, this stuff has been happening forever. And I think on this go-round, it's too late, we're fucked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have as many fucking Bacardis and Cokes as I possibly can and just sit back and just laugh while it happens. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. And come on here and talk to you sometimes. Go back to you, Dan.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, and you're probably right, you know? And in a way, it doesn't matter because you've already made your choice, Richie, and I've already made my choice. We've already done what we could. It's just like saying, oh, yeah, see, I told you so. I mean, I just wrote a book about this 7 months ago. Yeah. Well, nobody wants to hear that shit. Nobody wants to hear that I was right, that this bad, nasty thing that I said was going to happen happened, but it did. Okay, so what can I say now? That's why I don't care about writing anymore. I don't care about writing any more books. I don't care about being on the fucking internet. I don't care. There's nothing more to say. There's nothing more to say. So yeah, that's what we're doing. We're hiking. I've hiked 20 different trails in the Black Hills here this summer. I went to Evans Plunge for a month. I mean, I'm just getting in shape. I'm enjoying my life, okay? And that's where it's good advice what you got there, mate, because, you know, you do whatever makes you happy. And you don't let this scare you, and you don't let this change your life, man. That's the key. That's the best thing anyone can do, is do not let the fear creep in. Do not comply with their orders. Do not let this affect your life. We're probably going to drive to Mexico pretty soon. Maybe live there for a while. Yeah. Borders closed, they say. Fuck it. I'm getting through. I'm going to go through. I'm going to find a way through. There's always baksheesh, baby. So I'm going to go to fucking Mexico. If that's what I want to do, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not worried. I'm not scared. I'm not anything. It's like, so exactly right. I mean, and really it doesn't matter if we win or lose, but you already made our choice. Everybody's already made their choice. I mean, you know, you can still change your choice and become aware. And maybe if enough people do, okay, then maybe we got a shot.
Yeah.
But none of my business, really. I mean, I did what I had to do. You did what you had to do. What more is there to do?
No, let's be honest now. Let's be absolutely honest. Your books are outstanding. I've been lucky enough to read them, and they are absolutely outstanding. But one of the things I did when I first met you was the first time I ever spoke to you was back in 2013, I think. And you annoyed me. And I thought, I'm going to listen back to my own interview, which I do every now and then we all do, broadcasters, just to see how we're sounding, if we're repeating ourselves. You have to listen back to yourselves. Young radio presenters out there, you must listen back to yourself. But I listened back to my conversation with you, and I cross-referenced every single thing you said in a 90-minute interview. And I was absolutely pissed off because I couldn't find fault with anything you said. Your books are magnificent. So the reason I'm saying this is you and others like you've been a gift to humanity. You've done the research. You've been meticulous in how you've approached your journalism. I'm not fishing for compliments. I never do. I sit here and speak to guys like you and women like you and people like Jill and everybody else who's ever been on this program. And I challenge and I ask questions and I try and trip you up sometimes. And that's all I do, and it's all right. It's all right for me. And I want to say to my listeners, right? I change my mind like I change my underpants. Tomorrow morning, I'll wake up and I won't think we're fucked. Tomorrow morning, I'll wake up and I'll think we have a chance. I will. And then on Friday, after 5 or 6 Bacardis, I'll get morose. And I'll be like, oh, we're fucked, man. We're fucked. But on Saturday morning, I'll be running down Liverpool Street in Salford with Eye of the Tiger playing in my headphones, jogging, pretending that I'm in Rocky. And I'll think, yes, we will win. So look, if my listeners are getting despondent, don't be despondent, You're a genius. You've done the work. You don't owe anybody anything. I still owe a lot. Chucky our law. Chucky our law is right. Our day will come,
Yeah, but you too, Richie, because look, man, if you didn't have this show, like so many people wouldn't know who the hell I am or who the hell a lot of people are that are writing this stuff. And plus, you're really smart in your own right and you ask good questions and you know a lot of shit. So you're a gift to humanity. I just want to say that, man. And everybody that's doing this has it's great because no matter win, lose, or draw, we go up in a big nuclear tomorrow or we all, fucking whatever, FEMA camps next day.
Yeah.
We got a good life. We got a good life. We got a community of people that were aware all around the world that has kind of connected, got together, created some awareness. And yeah, you're right. This is an infinite process. This has happened so many times. And we've tried to get rid of these lizards and we haven't been able to, or maybe sometimes we were able to, or got intervened with the flood and we got them, or, whatever. But it's just like this whole thing is it's all about your choices. It's all about your individual choices. Do this thing and just being on the right side of history and being aware.
I can't get an image, Dean. I can't get an image out of my head. It's the image of the architect of the Matrix speaking to Neo. I think it's at the end of the second film, and he's really smug, I think he's basically saying to Neo that this has happened so many times before that somebody has tried to destroy the Matrix. But I want to ask you on this. It's important for me to ask you this. You don't have to answer it, of course. And I know the answer, but our listeners will want me to put it to you. Do you believe that we are here because of a benevolent creator? Is there a God, Dean? Do you believe in your heart of hearts? Is there some really positive, spiritual, loving thing that has something to do with us being here? Because if that is true, well, then none of it matters, does it? Because whatever happens, I suppose at the end of it all, we'll leave this existence and maybe go on to something better. So how does that factor into your thinking?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just look out my window and I see the trees and I see the animals and the birds and the flowers and how perfect everything is. And you can't tell me that that's an accident or, that was some big bang that just, some neutral entity that just... Yeah. I mean, to me, it's logical. It's a scientific fact almost that there is a creator or an architect or a God or whatever you want to call it. None of my business. I'm not a Bible thumper. I learned a lot from the Lakota people, and they just talk about, walking the good red road through life, and they talk about Wakantanka, which is, it really means the infinite mystery. It's genderless. It's not some white old man with a beard. It's just this unimaginable goodness. And it's what assembled what's outside my window, and it's what assembled, all the beauty in this world. And, I just find that, if I go outside and I go on a hike, everything's good. I'm walking the Good Red Road. If I come inside and I turn the TV on or the internet on, everything's bad. And that's the archives. That's that's the screen. That's what they use it for. They use it to basically change your whole interpretation of reality, from something really beautiful to something really dark. And that's just who they are, but they're weak. That's why they have to do it. Lucifer and the fallen angels, the Nephilim, the crown, they're all really weak because they come from a position of fear and they operate out of fear. And, they're these kind of people that, they're going to stab you before you stab them, even though you probably won't stab them, they think you're going to stab them because they're so scared. That's just how rich people are. They act like that, right? They're grabbing for stuff. They're doing, and that, but it's from a position of fear, and it's very weak. And so love is much more powerful, and love comes from creator and nature and what's good and what's right and what's in place in the world that fits together, which everything does in nature. They'll never be able to change that. They can change humanity. Maybe they can destroy the earth, but it'll regenerate. I've seen it many times with clear cuts, with mines, with just how amazing the earth just comes back, regenerates, heals itself, makes itself better. So they can only do this limited thing with humanity. But I think it's really, anyway, for me, it's just I'm always grounded in nature. I mean, I have to have that understanding, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to ultimately pull us away from nature. That's what all of this is about. Pull us away from nature into this artificial construct, which they are trying to create, but which they'll never create. They'll never perfect. They're not very smart, these people. Okay. They're really not. And they don't have the power on their side. So they can do these limited things, but that's what it's all about, is put us in the new artificial virtual reality and keep us there enslaved, instead of just opening your door, going outside and going for a walk and feeling better about it. So it's pretty much, it's like a trance. It's like putting us under a spell. And media means medium in Latin, which is something that gets between you and reality, a medium. And then medium, don't need it. I just want to look out the window and see what I see. And then before that, they called it propaganda, the War Department. And then before that, they just called it witchcraft. But it's all just deception. Media is deception. Like, I would not define you as media, Richie. I would define you as, truth, as anti-media almost. So it's no coincidence that all the media is corrupt, because it's just the nature of it almost. It's like, you don't have to, why are you telling me what the news is?
Yeah.
Why can't we all just wake up and say, we got the news. This is the news. This is the news today. I'm going to have some coffee. I'm going for a hike. This is the news. That's what's going on. So it's all just kind of like a mind fuck in the end, and that's what people just got to realize and get out of. Less information, sometime a lot better. And of course, the whole thing with the internet is just bombarded people with information. It's too much. It's fracturing their identity. They don't know who they are. They don't, and the internet came from DARPA, and, Facebook came from DARPA. Facebook came from LifeLog, shut down the same day, Facebook started up. It was a DARPA project. So all of this stuff is an attempt to create this new reality, this fake reality, fake book. And it's not real, and it's not natural, and it's not good. It's bad. And they love that. They love, anything that's anti-natural or anti-nature. This is why they want to push in the whole transgender thing. It's not natural.
It's the words there. The words are upside down, aren't they? Not upside down, but social media. I mean, it's the most fucking anti-social thing on planet Earth. There's nothing social about it. It's dreadful.
Nothing social about it. It's just a war zone of like little sixth graders throwing darts at each other. Yeah. I'm so glad I'm out of it. I don't have Twitter. I don't have Facebook. I unwound all that stuff. And I really don't spend any time on the internet at all, hardly anymore. Just once in a while, I'll look for, if I'm traveling or if I'm, looking for a rental or something.
And tell me this, Dean. Sorry to interrupt you. Tell me this. So when you made the conscious decision to get away from using the internet, did you notice immediately, because I've heard this said by other people, did you notice that your sleeping improved and that your genuine feelings, your well-being basically improved pretty quickly, right?
Yes. I've gained 10 pounds, which I needed to do.
You were really thin. Yeah.
I'm healthy. And part of that was just, we sold our farm, and, that helped too, because it was too much work. But yeah, no, there's no doubt my health's better. So I really think, and we don't know what's coming through there. We don't know what's coming out of that screen. There's no doubt in my mind that they can do anything they want with that screen in front of you and send anything they want, any kind of frequency, any kind of, we know they can send the ads and what's obvious, but what is it you can't see that they're sending? And that's the scary part. This whole thing is an over-horizon weapon system. That's what it was designed to be, and that's the scariest part. Like, if you're watching a logging company out your window clear cut a forest, you can see that. Or if there's a bomber coming in that's going to drop a nuke on you, you can see that. You can't see this. You don't even know it's coming at you. You don't even know you're being targeted with a weapon system. And that's that's the hardest part to explain to people. It's almost like two different species emerging. It's like the mask people, the Facebook mask people is one species, and then the living in nature, freedom people aren't going to wear a mask people. you know, and it's just almost like that.
You make a very good point there. Let's finish on this point because we've got 5-6 minutes left. This thing about the screen and what's happening. This is really important. I should have done this 10-15 minutes ago. I should have done it 10-15 minutes before that. Dean Henderson is the guest. I know you know who he is, but there are people listening who don't know who he is. As well known as Dean is, they'll be hearing him for the first time. Go to Amazon.com and pick up a Dean Henderson book today. Do yourself a favour and read it. And then pass it to the person next to you when you're done. And then encourage your friend to buy one. Support this sort of journalism, these sorts of writers. This is hugely important. These bastards, they do tell you the truth sometimes. Like, they put stories out there a few years ago where they admitted that under microscopes they can see the physiological changes to the brains of children that occur when these children are using these devices. They also admitted that the devices turn children and teenagers into completely joyless creatures. Now, some grandparents will be listening to this going, fake off, Richie. Teenagers are grumpy bastards at the best of times anyway. Yes, they might be. But what these devices have done, checking their device, Dean, 300 times a day just to see if somebody liked the stupid fucking photograph that they posted. It's messing with their dopamine. It's screwing them up. It's actually making it so that they find it very difficult to find things to satisfy them, to enjoy. The dopamine is all over the bloody place. So it's making people fucking depressed using these things. And that's, I believe it's deliberate. Totally.
Big time. That's exactly what it's doing. It's worse than heroin. It's worse than any drug I've ever seen. And I watch it. I live in a place right now, and I watch some people next to me living here, and they're constantly on that thing, and then they get off it, and they're just like lost. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. They don't know who they are. Then they get depressed, or they're giddy. When they first get off it, they're giddy. They're jumping around like little kids. You know, they're 50 years old, and they're jumping around like little kids, and they're so happy, and that lasts about 10 minutes. And then they just tank, and they're like, "Oh shit, what am I? I'm lost." And I mean, that's the whole idea. It's basically taking people's ability to know who they are, because it's bombarding people with information, just like the Alvin Toffler Future Shock book talked about was coming, and that was, I think, 1995. And I'm sure he was a Crown agent too, and they made that book famous for a reason. But that's what it's about: just bombarding people with information and taking away knowledge of who they are with too much information. You know, you don't need, I mean, once you know what you know, you're probably good. You know, I mean, not to say don't keep learning, but most learning comes from observation and inference, which is go outside and watch and pay attention. Pay attention. You know, the Indians were the only real scientists because they just paid attention. That's why they know the name and the use, not even the name so much, doesn't matter, but just the use of every plant for every purpose. They know all that stuff more than any Oxford scientist would ever know. They were scientists because they did just pay attention. A lot of us just paying attention, but nobody pays attention anymore. Nobody listens anymore. So few people can listen. I mean, I notice now, like, people will just come and they'll just talk, and it's just like they're like, wow, I found somebody that listens, you know. And so then they'll just talk and talk and talk, you know. But it's I don't know. It's messing stuff up, and we're not even touching the surface of it. I think, Richie, but it's all there, and it is a weapon, and you really got to use it. Just minimize the use of it. And you see what they're doing now. They're taking off all the sites that tell the truth, and they're shutting it all down, and they're controlling it more and more, and I just look at it like it's kind of like, for me anyway, it's just time to move on. It's time to move on to something else. And I love doing these interviews still once in a while. It's great to talk to you. You're doing great stuff. But as far as, you know, being a presence on the internet or having a blog, I think it'll never happen again for me. And I'm okay with that. Just it's time to do something else. You can't get fixed with an identity either. Like, you know, I know Dave Icke talks about this all the time, how we're just, you know, we're energy, we're awareness within a body, a certain body. But once you start saying, I'm a writer, or I'm a this, you know, fuck that.
Don't pigeonhole yourself. So,
I'm a gypsy. I'm going to be a gypsy for a while. That's my thing. I'm going to be a gypsy, and I'm going to go to nature, and I'm going to hike, and I'm going to see the beautiful parts of the world that these fuckers can never destroy. And I'm still going to tell people what I think, and I'm still going to try to wake them up, but I'm not going to worry if they don't wake up.
Yeah.
And nobody, you know.
That's funny you say that, because I don't have your spirituality. I really don't. But I did reach that point. I was quite satisfied with myself. I did reach that point some time ago.
Good.
The point where I'm not so vexed or upset anymore if somebody refuses to listen. Now I just say fair enough. You know, I was in the park recently and I was explaining something to somebody, and they were getting angry because I was talking about how the media is hiding the very qualified doctors who are questioning the virus. The media is hiding them. And I was telling it to somebody who believes that the virus is deadly and that we should all be locked in our bedrooms until the virus goes away. And the more I was explaining to the person about these doctors being hidden, the person was getting angry. And in the past, I would have gotten annoyed and I might have sworn at the person, but not anymore. I just don't care anymore now. So I just changed the subject now. So fair enough, you know. And it's helped me that. It's helped me to keep some sort of sanity for myself.
Yeah,
but,
it's a good spot. That's a good spot to be in, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also just that kind of sense of calm, and you know, to some extent, the more we kind of talk about this stuff, it's kind of a paradox, and there's a lot of paradox in the world, but it's almost like the more we talk about this evil cabal, the more we sort of bring it into the world.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, not really bring it into the world, but we give it attention, and it's like, what do you really want to pay attention to in life at some point? And it's just better just not put yourself through that, I think. And I'm the same way. I've gotten better at that too. Just if they're just looking at me like a blank slate, like they're never gonna get it, I don't, you know, that's it. I'm done. We'll go moving on and doing our thing. And but some people are receptive, some people aren't, and there still are people out there who I think are. But yeah, it's really a cosmic battle of epic proportions, and we're at a time right now where, you know, I mean, it's there's no way you can live in this thing and not see just how, you know, how kind of bleak the future looks. But again, I think the way we change that more than anything else, aside from burning the banks, it's, you know, we can disagree on, and that's fine. Aside from that, it really is just going out and living your life.
Yeah, I think what you described there is amazing. You both going on your hikes, and yeah, I've just resolved that I'm going to spend as much time as I possibly can with the woman I love, and we're just going to be together. We'll listen to our records, our vinyl records. We'll listen to our America and the Doobie Brothers and all that lovely California rock and Bob Seger, and just relax and let the madness do whatever the madness is doing. And that's all you can do. Do me a favour, do in the early autumn, do come back on, and we'll have an adder about where it is. Do, mate.
Love you, Richie. Hopefully, I'll get your communications this next time. You know.
Yeah.
It's funny because I checked out Skype yesterday, and you sent me a Skype in May, and it finally came through yesterday.
I know they've been fucking with you for a long time. You know, a lot of them. A lot of indie media, I call them the truth or industrial complex. A lot of them, they lie pathologically about how they're being attacked by the deep state. They're just liars. But I know for a fact the shit you've had to put up with over the years. I'm well aware of it. I know this. And it goes back to your time in politics as well. I'm well aware of it. Of course they're messing with you still. Of course they are. But they never get you, mate. They never get you. You're always 2 or 3 steps ahead of them. So.
No, they won't, man. No, I think we're getting them a lot more than they're getting us, and they just don't like it. So whatever, real fit. I don't care. But yeah, that'd be great, Rich, man. I'm so glad to talk to you, and you're my friend. Even though I never met you, I really, you know, we're soulmates, man. At some level, dude. It's gotta have a pint one of these days. I sure hope we can get on a plane and go over there one of these days and do that. You know,
that'll be some night out, my friend. That would be some night out to take you 10 years to recover from going out with me. Listen,
I hope so.
do us a favour. Give our regards to Jill and to your friends there. I know you relocated. You have a new life there, and I look forward to you coming back real soon. And just again, thanks for your time today.
Yeah, best to you and your better half, to you, Richie, and great to talk, and you take care of yourself, brother, okay?
Thanks, Dean. You're a legend. Folks, go to Amazon.com, pick up a Dean Henderson book today, Big Oil or The Four Horsemen, and read it. The guy's sensation. He's a terrific writer, and he's pieced this together. It's taken him years to do it, and nobody has. When it comes to the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the bloodlines, the intermarrying with the royal families, he's done this research. Nobody's done it like him. That's Dean Henderson, and you heard Dean live on the Richie Allen Radio Show today, Monday, the 6th of July, 2020. He's one of the good guys. He's one of the good guys, is Dean, yeah. Right, Charlie Robinson, by the way, will be on the programme tomorrow, the author of, amongst other books, The Octopus of Global Control. Lovely guy, Charlie. Looking forward to him coming back on the programme tomorrow. It's been a long, long time. A very good friend of Maria Heller's, of course, as well. So Charlie will be with me tomorrow. I don't know who else I'll have, but I will have somebody else. On Wednesday, David Sedgwick returns to the programme. Don't miss him. We had him on recently talking about his brand new book about the BBC. Great guy. David will be on. And I say this every single show, the diary isn't here. Well, it is, but it's not within arm's length reach, so I can't reach it. So there you go, yeah. Listen, I want to reiterate what I said earlier on. I say this to my mates all the time. I say all the time, we're fooked or we're fucked. But then 6 hours later, I think differently, you know. I see what's been going on. And for me, the most... And this is not naivety. It's going to sound it. But the most distressing thing for me in the last 3 months has been people. And people's willingness to go along with this. Their willingness to have their finances destroyed. Their financial futures destroyed. The lives of their children, potentially. Destroyed, and their compliance. That's been, for me, the most difficult thing. And it's during those periods that I think we're properly fucked. You know? But then I wake up, I go for a run, I go running every day. I've not had a day off running now for nearly 4 weeks. And I don't want to hear the usual bullshit about it's too much. It isn't too much. I enjoy it. I'm not breaking any records, you know. I'm not slow either. But I enjoy it. I enjoy the challenge of it. And I think clearly. And I feel good about it. And it gets the old endorphins going. And when I come back, I mean, I work before I go running. I work when I'm out walking with the dogs. I'm working. I'm listening to the radio. Sadly, I'm on the phone looking at newspapers and stuff. And then I come back. Then I go for my run. If I didn't do the run, I wouldn't be able to face the day. So why am I saying that again? Well, you do get some stories in the mainstream media from time to time that ring true. And one of them is about getting out and getting some exercise. BBC ran a story today about how just getting out for a bit, ironically, from the BBC, just getting out, you know, just going for a walk, going to a park, taking a book, sitting on a park bench after having walked for a couple of miles, make an enormous difference, not just to your physical health, but to your mental health, to your well-being. And it does help. You do feel in better form after them, because I can't recommend it highly enough. I began my running regime back in 2014, it was. I wasn't obese, but I wasn't in great shape. And my motivation for doing it was to slim down a bit. And I was about 16. At my heaviest in Spain, sadly, I was nearly 17 stone, which is shocking, really, even though I'm 6 foot 6 inches tall. And it is all in proportion, ladies. And I decided, for aesthetic reasons, to do it. So it was negative reasons, really. But I found out very quickly, after I got over the initial difficulties of getting back to running, I found that it was actually improving my spirit, my mood. It's amazing what it does. So get out. Get up off your backsides and get out when you can. Right, so that's it then. Thanks again to Dean. Do go to Amazon.com. Patricia is listening in Zurich in Switzerland. Great friend of ours. How you doing, Patricia? Too many people with too many opinions, Richie. She's a runner, by the way. Is Patricia. She is a fellow runner. Go for your runs. When your body can't, it will tell you. Spoken as a crazy runner for over 30 years and personal trainer for over 20. And Patricia's in great shape. Absolutely right. Right, I heard today, so I did, that the composer Ennio Morricone passed away. Now, I wouldn't know too much about composers, and I wouldn't know too much about classical music, but I remember many years ago, I went to the cinema to see The Untouchables with Andy Garcia is in it. I know Andy Garcia is in it. I know Kevin Costner is in it. And Sean Connery is in it, playing the Irish beat cop. And it's an amazing film. And for the first time in my life, I think, I was moved by a musical score. I wouldn't have ever considered musical scores. I mean, when was The Untouchables in the cinema? 1988, was it? Was it 88? 87, 88. So I saw it, I was about 14 years old. And the music in it blew me away. I was amazed by it. Particularly the scene when the Mounties and Elliot Ness and his men gallop across the open space to the bridge to intercept the booze trucks. There is a score there by Morricone that just takes the breath out of your lungs. It's so beautiful. So this guy wrote all these scores, spaghetti westerns, you know all that. I don't need to tell you that. And he did The Thing, and he did The Untouchables, and he died at 91, and he left a lasting impact on me, because after that particular film, I began to look for scores by Ennio Morricone. So, Arieste Gareva on him. Rest in peace, Ennio Morricone. And I'm going to close out the programme with a score from the film The Mission, which starred Jeremy Irons and Robert De Niro, which is another amazing film, at least visually anyway. It's amazing. And the score is incredible. So I'm going to close out with Gabriel's, I think it's Gabriel's oboe, written and produced by Ennio Morricone, and say that's it for the Richie Allen Show. Look after yourselves and one another. Back with you again tomorrow, Tuesday at 5 o'clock. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. This is quite special, this. See you tomorrow. Bye now. Bye. Thanks, Dean.